Hello and welcome to the Winners Never Quit podcast, all about mental resilience, embracing hardship, learning from it, all to build a winner's mindset. Hosted by myself, Jarvis. If you could like, follow, subscribe to the podcast, I would really appreciate it. Today I am joined by my good friend and high performance coach, Plumridge, aka Plum. Me and Plum served together in 5'9 Commando. In his 13 years of service, he has deployed overseas in combat, humanitarian and peacekeeping environments. He also spent 2 years on the Commando training team where we met, much to my pleasure and enjoyment. And this is also where he discovered his passion for coaching. Since leaving the army, he has continued coaching, working as the strength and conditioning coach for Dorking Wanderers Football Club and WBC international champion Dennis McCann. And he joins me now. Hello, Plum. Welcome, mate. How's it going?
Hello, buddy. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, mate. It's good to have you on. We've got a lot to catch up on, mate, because I haven't seen you for a while. But let's start the podcast as we always do. How would you define winning in your life?
So for me, winning is constantly striving for excellence and never putting a ceiling on what you can achieve. So having that growth mindset and just like believing the sky's the limit. And I think if you're constantly chasing growth, you'll consistently be winning. There'll be many failures and setbacks along the way, but it's how you deal with that and how you go above and beyond to constantly improve that I think defines a true winner.
So I do agree with you, and I think growth is a good example. But when you say growth, what do you mean in a physical performance standpoint, or do you mean, maybe academia or business? How do you define growth? Or can it be all three of those things?
I think it's
and more.
Whatever's relevant to what you're pursuing at the time.
Yeah.
So I used to believe that we could push the ceiling on everything all at once. And what I've recently discovered is actually by striving for everything, we become suboptimal in everything.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm now more of the mindset of going all in one aspect, maintaining in another, and then minor in another. So a phrase I heard was major, maintain, and minor. So we major somewhere, and that's what we're pushing. That could be for an undetermined amount of time, whatever's needed. And then we maintain in whatever our secondary thing is, and then we minor in the final aspect that we want to kind of just like still tick along with, but not necessarily push the ceiling off. So to make that more specific, right now I'm majoring in business, maintaining in family, minoring in my own
not having any more kids.
Training. No more kids.
Mate. Done.
But just in terms of like spending time with the family, there's been times where that was actually a back burner. Like that was a sacrifice I chose to make, where I would purposely let that go down. While driving maybe my own performance and maintaining business. So like they're my three areas that I constantly go around different cycles in: business, family, and my own performance. Something
I didn't say in your introduction, right, was recent. When was the tyre flip?
September last year.
So, right, Plum and a mate of ours who we used to serve with in 5'9 Commando, Harry Yelloway, they flipped a tyre for a marathon. It was 70 kilos, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 74.
74 kilos. And so you've recently said you can't push, because you're really big believer in big, scary goals, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but you can't set another physical goal while you're still growing your business, can you? And that's sort of what you mean.
Yeah. So I thought I could.
Yeah.
And maybe some people can, but like I've discovered for myself I can't. So right now, like my training is just at an enjoyment level. Business is the primary focus, and then family is something that I like just maintain. So that stays on that consistent bracket where I'll be scheduling time every day to do something with the family. Whereas when I was training for the tyre flip, I would like have to drag the family along for a tyre flip session to get time with them, because the training, like the weekly training load was so high alongside recently leaving the military that I just like something had to give, and that's what I decided. That was a sacrifice I chose to make.
I've definitely noticed. So I'm training for an ultra, as you know, and I've noticed now as the distances you can't squeeze in a 50k.
No,
like it's 50k. It takes 5 hours. It's the prep beforehand. Especially if you're going to do it like one way and then train back. Like you literally can't. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
Right. So you spoke about leaving the military. Let's go back to that. So a few people that especially my peer group, myself, I'm getting out. So what was the catalyst for you leaving, and then how was that first sort of transition, you know, finding your feet? You know, people maybe that aren't from a military background don't realise like how secure a military job is. So what was the catalyst, and then how was that transition out of the military?
It's funny actually, because coming into camp today, I was speaking to the lady and I said to her, lads don't realise how easy they've got it when they're in. Don't regret my decision to leave. Absolutely love it. But how secure and how easy life is on the inside is something that you take for granted when you're in it.
Mate, when we're sat here at like 2 o'clock recording a podcast.
Yeah, mental. So
on a Saturday though, boss, if you're listening.
So the catalyst, I became a sergeant. My career was so fulfilling. Like the lads, the deployments, everything I did was class. Everyone that knows me will know that. Like I loved my job. Became a sergeant, behind a desk, decided to leave the commando unit and go to a unit closer to home, because me and the missus decided we were going to have a family, and I wanted to be a dad that was around as opposed to a dad that was deployed all the time. And then I planned on doing 3 years at my unit close to home, which is Maidstone. And then a couple of months in, job fulfillment just wasn't there. I literally despised it, and I was like, "This is me. I'm done."
What job were you doing?
I was troop sergeant.
Troop sergeant,
yeah, in 20 Field Squadron, and I just thought like I back myself to make shit work. I know that regardless of what I'm doing, I can succeed in it. Like I just back myself, and I just thought like that's it. Like, signing off, I'll make it work. And then, I haven't looked back. Your
plan changed. Like, what did you think you were going to do when you get out, and how did that evolve?
Yeah, so I was going to open a CrossFit gym. That was kind of the dream. Like, I was an avid CrossFitter for, must be close to 10 years.
You were pretty average.
Yeah.
No,
I was average, but I was avid.
No, you were pretty good. Like, you know,
Back in the day,
you could mix it. You know.
I got into it early, so obviously when you're in a new sport, you can be quite good quite quick. When we had a good base level of fitness anyway, just from being in the squadron. Whereas now, like
hybrid athlete.
All that stuff. Going to open a CrossFit gym, live the dream. Like on paper, it sounds like the dream job, and then the more I dug into the weeds of it was like actually like this isn't what I want. I can have more of an impact, more fulfillment through just coaching without owning a facility. So then I decided to just be a coach rather than a facility owner. And then things evolve and develop, and I'm like on about the 8th iteration of my business now.
Well, mate, amazing. What was your first experience of coaching? What made you fall in love with it?
So the first experience, like as in all the way back on the training team?
Yeah, first in a life experience.
Yeah, okay.
Where we met.
Yeah. So the training team. So I did my PTI course at 19 years old. And then went on the training team at 20. Spent a couple of years there, and was just lucky to have a great mentor in Stan.
Do you still speak to Stan?
Infrequently, but still in comms, just not consistent.
Yeah.
Like you know
how it is. Yeah.
So having him as a mentor, as a young coach, was like priceless. And so he kind of set the standard, and then drove those standards onto us, and then like was just constantly growing and becoming a better coach, like literally every day, because I'd deliver a circuit and he'd watch it behind the scenes, and then debrief me afterwards on why it was shit, and I thought I was a legend. And then just to get ripped apart, and I'd be like, all right, okay,
cheers.
Cheers. And then but then seeing someone that couldn't climb a rope, and then 8 weeks later, watching them get to the top of a rope with kit on, was like, that process was just like so fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd really been in a leadership position, because I did my Lance Corporal course while I was on the training team. So like that was the first time I was actually in a leadership role, like thrown in the deep end. And then from there, like I just got addicted to it. So in my spare time, I'd be reading and watching everything I could to do with nutrition, to do with mindset, to do with strength conditioning. And obviously now we're talking 2010. So even then, like social media and YouTube is in a bit of its infancy. So like there's the names that we hear now weren't really around back then.
Yeah.
So it was it was like reading blog posts and stuff like that, which was class. And like still to this day, I refer back to some of the stuff I learnt back then. And then obviously when that come to an end, then I went back into the squadron and then over to Recce Troop. Like I was still coaching in my spare time, just friends and like just off the cuff stuff. It never left me. And then like that just felt like the natural progression from getting out. Like I knew I was going to be in coaching because it was just something I loved like deeply.
So me and Plum met, it would have been the start of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
You probably don't remember it. Everyone would have known you that you took through the commando course. Yeah. Like everyone would know you, but you won't remember them. You just, in Plum's position, I was just another face. Because I'd bump into lads like other units and stuff like that, and they go, "Oh, you're right, Corporal," and I'm like, "Oh, you're right, mate." Like, you get 45 blokes on a course, you don't remember everyone.
Yeah.
I thought you were very professional. Not just saying that because you're here, but you're also, I'm not gonna lie, mate, you're an absolute animal. Like some of the thrashings that you gave out were top notch. But I know exactly what you mean there with the coaching. Doing 2324 training at Chatham, and when you get people that can't climb a rope, and it'd be weird. Like there'd just be some guys, wouldn't there, that would get it in a session. But then there'd be other guys that would need that coaching, and it is addictive. You're right. And when you can't teach one, did you feel like it was almost like I don't know,
Take it personally.
Yeah, I took it personally.
Yeah.
Like, are you still like that now? Do you have that level of investment? That I'm guessing you do.
Yeah. So that the self-awareness there is something that I work on a lot because working with people now, and I'm still equally as invested in the goals as I was all the way back then, helping lads get the green lid. And then if someone doesn't succeed, you take that as in like on you, but it's learning and understanding that process as to like reflecting on why they failed, and then like, did I do everything I could? Did I coach them to the best of my ability? If I can answer that as yes, then it's not necessarily a me problem. But I'd still take that as a learning point on, okay, well, where did it go wrong? Why did it go wrong? What can I do better next time? Like, I'll have that reflection. Like, that's something I do regularly anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll do it specifically on a person if they fail something that they set out to do that I was help coaching them for.
Final thing on the training team, like, just think about that, like Russ, Jez, Stan, Rob. That was a good training team, wasn't it? Like, when you look back, it was really good. You talk about their Lucian, stuff like this, and different parts of your business. How did the business evolve? What was like the first sort of big change? Because I'm guessing you just sort of come out, you were coaching multiple people. What was the change? What was the catalyst for that?
This is going to sound a bit dickheadish, but I attracted high-level people from the start. Always wanted to coach high-level athletes.
Yeah.
In my head, that's what I wanted. And I spoke to people about that. I voiced that. All of a sudden, they came my way.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything for it. They just approached me. So the lads that I served with, they first approached me. Like they're now SF lads. And that was quite humbling, but I already had the previous trust built from them.
Yeah.
But then I had like GB ice hockey players, like youth players, female international rugby players. Like all of a sudden they were coming out of the woodwork and wanted coaching from. And it was like massive imposter syndrome. Like, well, why me? Like, I've done nothing to deserve this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why they want me to coach them. But just
sorry, just to give some context. When he says SF, you mean soldiers that are going on UK Special Forces selection. That's either for the Special Air Service or the Special Boat Service. So I can fully understand why they would approach you. You're a subject matter expert in all that sort of stuff, especially like commando. But I can totally understand why you were like, rugby. You're a football player. Yeah. Like, what do you know about rugby?
Yeah.
No, and I don't mean that offensively. So how does that come about?
Yeah, so like principles stay the same. Like, and all you do is you adapt it to the situation and to the needs.
Yep.
So it's almost like a needs analysis of the sport, like understanding the demands of it. So all I'd done was, so when I took on, so I took them on. I was like, well, yeah, I coach you. Like I was open and transparent about my knowledge on it. I was like, yeah, I'm happy to do it. They agreed, and then all I'd done was then I would then go all in on learning about the sport, the demands of the sport. So I'd message friends who were either into ice hockey or into rugby or whatever it may be. Swimming was another one. And I'd just ask them to highlight the best in the sport, who they know in the world, like who's the best at that sport in the world. And then I'll just take a deep dive and learn anything I can about that athlete in that position, what they do, what their training looks like, just to get an understanding of like the demands. And to be honest, I overcomplicated it massively. Like now, knowing what I know now, I would have simplified the whole process back then, and just particularly with youth athletes, I've always taken a cautious approach anyway. But like massively simplify where you're starting with them, and then just take them through a slow progression, and then just periodise what they're doing.
So you're, sorry, youth, are we talking like teenager, like sort of 12, 13?
So I coached a 13-year-old swimmer, but the rugby girl specifically, she was 15, and I coached her through to 17, and she's now on Harlequins. She's now in the Harlequin women's squad, and
amazing.
England under 21s, I believe.
Yeah,
like beast. But again, all these people I coach, the common denominator with them, extremely high work ethic, extremely high potential, and all I'm doing is giving them the pathway to harness what they're fucking already awesome at, and just like make them better. I see it, I view it as like, I don't really do a lot because they've already got the potential, they've already got the talent. Anyone with any level of strength conditioning could do the same. There's nothing special about what I've done with them. I'm just lucky to be like, same as Dennis, like grafter, like loads of talent. All I do is just put him on the right path to make sure that he trains the right way. Any strength conditioning coach that knows what they're doing could do the same thing. Like, there's nothing special about what I do. There's no secret.
Work will outperform talent, and I totally agree with that. Like you said, you are probably the luckiest strength conditioning coach because you've got those people that are happy to work hard, and not only that, you know, they've got a talent. I don't know if I really agree with natural. Have you read the book Bounce?
Yeah.
Or do you, I listened to that on my row, and it's so true. Like, I always think, you know, because a lot of my mates, they think, oh, natural born talent, and I look at the best player in our youth team, and he was always the best. You know, when we started like under sixes, he was world class. Well, he wasn't world class, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But why was he world class? He'd already done a year with his older brother. His brother was a year older than him, so he'd already played football for a year. He lived opposite a green. Like, his house was literally, you cross the road, there's a big green. So he's playing football. And then look at me, and why wasn't I maybe like the most naturally gifted? Well, because I lived in a pub. We didn't have a garden.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't practice.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not hard work. It is hard work. It's not like talent. Do you know what I mean? So I really agree with that.
Yeah, so I think there's two things I'm thinking here. So the first one is just making me think of Dennis. He left school and went full-time into boxing, I think when he was 11.
Yeah.
Right, so then turned pro at 18, he's now 21, and his trajectory is ridiculous.
Yeah.
For anyone to mimic that, they've got to get, so he had 10 years full-time boxing by the time he was 21.
His dad a boxer, by any chance? Or
I don't think
no?
so. No. But yeah, but he was getting the train to Repton, like one of the most reputable boxing gyms in the country, at 11 on his own, like just mental.
Yeah.
For anybody else to replicate his career, they've got to leave school at 10, 11 years old and go full time. Yeah. Like, it's just it's improbable that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the other thing is genetically. So
talent,
So talent.
I always say this. So my nan always goes, "Oh, you can do whatever you want." I say, "Grandma, if you're born 5'2", you're probably never going to win the world's strongest man."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's true. Unfortunately, no matter how hard you work, you've been dealt a hand where you're 5'2".
Yeah.
You know. But sorry, I interrupted that.
No, mate, it's pretty much exactly what you're saying there. Like, genetically, some people are built towards a certain way.
Yeah.
And then if you can harness your work ethic and talent towards that way that you're genetically gifted, then you can become maybe one of the top 0.1%.
Yeah. So like Michael Phelps is another good example.
Yeah.
He is the perfect physique for swimming.
Yep.
Add on top of that his work ethic.
Yep.
You know.
Like, even if I worked as hard as him and we had exactly the same life, I'm 5'8".
Yeah.
I haven't got a chance.
Yeah.
You know.
I bet you're gutted you're not an inch shorter, inch taller, aren't you?
5'9".
Yeah.
I might just tell people I am.
Oh, mate, the hair now, mate. It's exact. Last time I see, well, no, actually, that's a lie. when me and Plum obviously worked together, he had like really short hair, and now he's got like this absolute mane, mate. I don't know. I like, mate. I do. You're winning me over with it, mate. You're winning me over with it. It's all right.
You messaged me the other day saying that I look better with short hair, and
I don't know. Just that in that WhatsApp picture with is your son in it
Yeah.
in that picture? I don't know. I think you look pretty good,
Yeah.
man. Bit of a man crush.
Yeah, that was when I first got out, and I
Yeah.
had a photo shoot done for the new business launch. Obviously, short hair was still the same as
Yeah.
when I was in. But I just,
So the modelling career never worked out then, no?
no,
No.
never got off the ground.
No. Right, sorry. So when we talk about modelling, right, yes. So Dorking, how did this come about, mate? Because that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
because you're a big footy fan as well, aren't you?
Big footy fan. So
Unfortunately, Sports United, but,
yeah,
you know.
we won't talk about that. so Dorking, I've set a British record last season for the most promotions in the shortest amount of time in British football.
They have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 12 promotions in 22 years. So it was basically like a pub team.
Yeah.
Where you pay 50 quid a week to rent a pitch and do all that stuff. Like all the way through to now in the National League, competing against like the likes of Chesterfield, Oldham, all these well-established teams. And yeah, little old Dawkins come from nothing. All credit due to the manager and owner, Mark. But yeah, so that come about.
Sorry, is Mark the manager or?
He's manager, owner, chairman.
Oh, wow.
He founded the club in '99, taken it all the way through now and still managing.
Wow.
Just YouTube the guy. YouTube bunch of amateurs. And there's a whole like YouTube documentary on them, and it's just a phenomenal story. So yeah, the captain of Dorking is from my hometown, and we have a mutual friend. I was assisting this mutual friend's a manager of a local football club. I was assisting him with their pre-season work, and he basically just said to Baz, the captain of Dorking, about me, and then Baz like, yeah, we need him. Let me get in touch with the gaffer. Connected us both. We spoke. I went up there for a meeting, and the gaffer was just like, yeah, I need you in the club. That was last pre-season, and then yeah, I've been there since.
So how did that conversation go? How did you sell yourself to the club? Because, mate, that sounds like a pretty alley job, mate. Yeah. Like, you know, someone who's getting out, tell me the trade secrets.
Yeah.
Like, what was your vision? Like, what were they doing maybe wrong? What did you want to change?
So I don't have a degree in strength conditioning.
No.
I don't have a UK SCA or whatever it is. So I'm not in the UK strength conditioning circles. I'm not in the clicky circles. My coaching ability and experience has come from my background.
Yeah.
And
years at the coalface.
Yeah. And having a high performance mindset, having high standards from the squadron, the stuff that you learn in the squadron, like where the high standards just become the norm. Like that's just how I roll. That's just how I live my life.
I often get like, how did you keep going, and stuff on the row, and people used to say like, Jack, you got no like ocean experience, you've never been sailing, never been rowing. I said, yeah, but it don't matter, because like my mindset that we talk about it used to be ruthless, didn't it?
Yeah.
It did used to be ruthless. I'll tell this story because I love it, mate. Right. So the day I walked into the office, so at this point when I hadn't passed around, of course, I was untrained, right? So when you walked into the office, you had to take your blueberry off. You weren't allowed. And I think it was like 59 press-ups anyway. So we walk in, and there was three of us: me, Jack Hewitt, a lad called Stedman, and Plum comes up, and I'm obviously like terrified. And he's like, right, sort of goes down the line. I was the last to answer. He's like, right, so what do you want to go to for? I was like, what do you want to pass around? I was like, oh, my dad was in, and like, my godfather's in, so that's what I'm in. He's like, all right, yeah. And he looks at me like stern face, absolutely no emotion, like no hint of a joke. He's like, yeah, all right. We've just had the Sergeant Major's son down, and he was fucking dog shit. So we don't expect a great deal from you, mate. And I was just like, thank you. Can I leave now? I wouldn't have said thank you or can I leave. I probably just stood there just like that, but nodded.
Just giggled.
Yeah, but no, I loved it.
Yeah.
Like people, people might say, oh, what? Like, no, it was that dog eat dog. Like we said. If you went on course, you didn't come top of the course, you got tanked. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like a big chuck up, oh, we'll go out for beers. Oh, what, you come top? Yeah, nice one. On to the next thing. And that's where that mindset, the like striving for excellence mindset comes from.
Exactly.
So yeah, go on. Sorry,
So
you were saying.
So we had a call first, and then it was an in-person meet. And I basically just spoke about what I could do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't talk about what they were doing wrong. I didn't talk about what other people would do because I didn't know. Like I had no idea how other people in my position would operate in that role. So I just spoke open and honestly about high performance mindset, about like the strength conditioning protocols that I do, like a recovery focused training program, and all this stuff. And he just buzzed off it. He said, I get so many people because of his popularity and because of like his presence on social media and YouTube and stuff. He gets a lot of people inquire about coming to work there, coaches, strength conditioning coaches, and all the rest of it. And he said, like, he just mugs them all off. He said he doesn't want to hear it because they all talk the same jargon, all talk the same crap. And he said, and you were just different. But I wasn't intentionally different. I was just honest. In all honesty, I was a bit naive to actually how popular the club was. And then when I went up there, we basically had the same conversation, and he asked me what I would need in terms of like kit and logistics. I told him, and then he bought it all, and then I rocked up, and like haven't looked back since.
It's strange because I know you haven't got anything to compare it to because you've only worked at one football club, Dorking. But what is their setup like? Is it good? Because I know people, me included, it's Vanarama National League, isn't it? Yeah. What is the setup like? Is it would expect maybe like a Championship Prem club or
No. Where the growth's been so fast, the club's playing catch up. Got a great ground, 3G pitch, no gym facility. It's just so everything is kind of like pitch based. Part-time club, whereas I think pretty much everyone else in the National League's full-time, which is a disadvantage, but like we're just looking for marginal gains in different things that we do. But yeah, no, the setup's quality for the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
If you was to compare us to Championship and Premier League clubs, like night and day, miles off. Yeah.
What are the challenges with working with like part-time athletes rather than, like you said, Dennis McCann, who's full-time?
Yeah. Stress of their life and their job. So, like the benefits of Dennis is that he doesn't have a day job to stress him out. Like his day job is to train. So therefore, like he doesn't have, I've got to get this project done by this date. I've got to get this done by this. Like he doesn't have all this external stuff. So he can, because the stress is stress, right? The body can't determine whether it's physical stress, physiological stress. It's just stress that we need to kind of like adapt to reach a homeostasis, to adapt and grow and develop. And so with these guys, like a lot of them have really successful careers outside of football, whether it's office jobs or whatever, or in businesses. So they're basically doing two things. They're playing football at an extremely high level while working in their day job at an extremely high level. Then you throw a wife and kids on top of that, and like you've got all these stresses. And then when it comes to training, and I'm asking them to do this extra stuff in their own time, like their time management has to be on point, their recovery management has to be on point, their communications with me has to be on point. And it's just, whereas if their job was to play football, they'd rock up, I'd coach them, we'd feed them, I'd recover them, like all that stuff. They'd go home, spend time with their family, good night's sleep, back in the next day, same thing again. So that's the challenge. But it's also like that underdog mentality, and I think it gives you that additional 10%, like knowing your back's up against the wall.
Mate, 100%. I totally agree with you on that. You touched on sort of like part-time athlete and stuff like that. What would be your advice to someone that's training for? Because a lot of people that are going to be listening to this aren't probably going to be professional athletes. What would be your like one really like best bit of advice for someone that's maybe a bit of stress at work but training for something to try and manage that? What would you say? What's your golden nugget as such?
Understand your sacrifices first. So prior to committing to any event, big goal, challenge, whatever, understand what needs to be sacrificed first. Then accept whether you want to sacrifice those things, whether that's stag do's, weddings, nights on the piss, stand up late, binge watching YouTube episodes, food you eat.
It's like your post the other day, the reunion,
Yeah, exactly. That was.
You can't do it all.
No, but it's like you need to understand first, right? So what is the training demand required of me? What do I need to sacrifice in order to commit to that training demand? am I willing to accept that? It's a yes or no answer. It's not a maybe. A maybe is a no.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a yes or no. And if you can, then it's like, right, okay. So then when you get faced with a hurdle, and like one option is training and the other option is something else, it's an easy decision. You're training, you know, like when you have that set and you can make those decisions, like it might be that you've got to get up at 5 a.m. every day to get your training in so you can have breakfast with the kids before you go to work, and then blah, 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 blah. So I think when you understand that, and then, so first is sacrifices, and the second thing would be your recovery, like food and sleep focused. Like that's where you need to focus your time, because your recovery efforts will have to be significantly higher than someone that has all the time in the world. Yeah. Because it's our food, it's our water, it's our sleep that's going to help us recover faster for the day-to-day efforts we need to put in across work, family, and training.
And I see, you know what you said about training early in the morning, right? That'd be one of, don't know if it would be my biggest bit of advice. If when you get it done, like, have you read Nims's book or watched his documentary?
Sound bad? No.
No, have you not watched either?
No.
Don't worry, mate.
It's on the list.
I sound like such a book like worm at the minute, because I've just got back from the road, listened to like 27 books. I'm like, oh yeah, have you read this? I'll just listen to them, mate. Yeah. But he says a brilliant saying. He's like, if your job's to eat a frog a day, do it first thing. And if your job's to eat 2 frogs a day, eat the biggest one first. And I think training in the morning, getting it done, and winning the morning is so underestimated, because we all trained this morning. Because you were coming, and you know, like didn't want to be like feel any pressure. But I always think if you train first thing and you have a car crash of a day, at least you've trained. Yeah. It doesn't have to be training like my Duolingo as well. That is something I really struggle to do, because it's not my thing. Like my thing is being physical. Yeah. But if I do it in the morning, even if I go, oh, no, at least I did 20 minutes of Duolingo, you know what I mean? I really think that's like underestimated.
Yeah. So for me, like this is where the major, maintainer, minor comes in, because the first thing in the morning would be the thing that you're majoring in. Yeah. However, that said, what I found personally is when I'm weight cutting, so whenever I put myself in a calorie deficit to drop body weight, if I train in the morning, my appetite is spacked all day, and staying in a deficit is tough. So what I find is, rather than training first thing, I have to prioritize a period later in the day where I'm going to train, and like that has to be non-negotiable. Training is really easy for me to mug off later on in the day when I'm majoring in business, and then obviously my son comes home from nursery, daughter comes home from childminder, missus comes home from work. Like it's really hard to commit to training in the evenings or afternoons when I've got all that going on. The easiest thing to do would be to train first thing. However, that would then not help you in a calorie deficit. So there's all these variables that come into it that have to weigh up, and it's like, right, well, I just need to be disciplined with it. I just need to lean on my standards. Like for me, I train a minimum 4 times a week. So prioritize the 4 days I'm going to train, goes in the schedule, non-negotiable. This is when I'm going to the gym, and nothing can throw that off. In a gold case scenario, I would train first thing in the morning, come back, have breakfast, shower, start my day. Like that's what works for me in any other given moment, other than when I'm in a calorie deficit.
So a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, but my missus, I'm guessing you need to be good on your communication with your partner. Yeah. 100%. You know, because especially if you've got kids, like just say, look, this is the score, and I feel like communication is the key for that one.
Yeah, but again, like so when I talk about sacrifices, like I think they're just massively underrated. Like nobody talks about them enough. Like when it comes to committing to something,
because Plum, no one wants to sacrifice, mate, do they?
No,
they want the social. Everything. They want the social life. Like pick their kids up from school, drop them. Like, do you know what I mean? Drop them off. It don't work like that. Like it really doesn't. Yep. And that's why, because it's not a good sell as well. Like no one wants to buy a plan that says, right, you're gonna need to sacrifice X, Y, and Z, and it's going to be really hard. Yeah. People want a plan where, it's 6 weeks and you're going to look like this. Yeah. But you're also going to be on the fucking Winstrol buddies. Like, it's true though, isn't it?
Yeah. And to be honest, like that's why I moved away from like that caliber of person, because it's just not aligned with how I think and how I coach. So there's people out there excellent at working with general population that couch to 5Ks or drop a dress size, drop a jean size, whatever. There's people that are superb at that, and doing it in a way that fits in with the lifestyle. That's not me.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to learn that. Like, I tried doing everything. I thought I'd coach everyone. And then I quickly learned the people that fulfill me the most. And it's those that are striving for like these bigger, like more audacious, challenging goals, and requires a level of commitment and work ethic and sacrifice in order to achieve. So yeah, so like I think when it comes to the communications with the other half, it's like, well, what do I need to sacrifice? Okay, well, if you want to read your kids a story at night and the kids goes to bed at 7 o'clock, like 6 to 8 is blocked out as your family time. Right, cool. Right, so the missus, like, happy with that? Yep, cool. So then your training time goes around that. Like, do you train at 8 p.m? Do you train, like, maybe you go to a 24-hour gym and you train at 10 p.m. once the missus goes to bed? Like, there's ways around everything. It's just what you're willing to commit to and sacrifice.
And I have this conversation, why are you training? It's like 10 o'clock at night. I said, perfect example. I went out the other day and, my mate was like, messaged me on Instagram. She's like, oh, you had to go for a run at 10:30. And I finished at like, I don't know, 20 to 12. I said, no, of course I didn't have to. But for me, no one else is going to do it for me. If you're like paying for a program, it's that accountability. I don't want people to think I'm weak. And that I'm just going to chin training off. If it's normally my bad admin if I'm training that late at night, because no kids don't live with a missus. Like, pretty cushy job. You just need to go out there and sort of get it done.
Yeah.
You can always look for an excuse to why not to do something, and that's my big thing as well. Why don't we ask ourselves, how can it be done?
Yeah.
That's something I like. Talk to me about Dennis McCann as well, mate, because that's something I'm interested in. How did this come about? Because it's cool, mate. It's very cool.
Yeah,
like
it's really similar to the football story, and I guess this is a testament to having a good network. Like, so another boxer I used to coach, Jack Eubank, who I actually went to school with, one a really good friend of mine.
Are you still coaching him?
No. So Jack's not fighting anymore.
Okay.
But he's good friends with Dennis, and Dennis was travelling a long way to train his strength conditioning. It was putting in a lot of mileage in the car, which wasn't conducive to recovery. Just like when we talk about being like an optimal performer, what he was doing wasn't aligned with that. But he was like, well, I've got nothing else. There's no one else around that I can do this with. And Jack was like, well, why don't you speak to Louis? And he's like, who's that? Connected us both.
Everyone calls you Louis, don't they? Don't they?
Yeah. We're saying that, no, like my best civvy pals call me Plum.
Yeah.
Like the three lads that I'm closest to. Like a handful do.
Yeah.
Most people call me Louis. Because it's also now as a civvy, it's a weird thing to introduce yourself as Plum.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, hi, I'm Plum.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just weird. So yeah, I don't care. It doesn't faze me. So Jack said that to Dennis, and then connected us, give him my number. Got a message from him, met for a coffee. Much like the Dorking story, we spoke, and he's like, yeah, like what you got to say. Let's do it.
Yeah, was that just with you and him, or him and his boxing coach?
No, just me and him. That's a good point, actually. So then I said to him, I want to meet your boxing trainer so I can make sure the program's in alignment with what you need. Another cool story about Dennis, I said to him, what do you perceive as your weakness? What's the thing that you feel we need to work on the most? And he looked at me and shrugged and went, I don't have a weakness. And I was just like, and it was true. Like, when we tested him, and it doesn't. So it just meant that like we could just raise the bar. But it was just so class because it was so like raw and honest.
Yeah.
And then when I went and met his boxing trainer, and I said the same thing.
Who's his trainer?
Al Smith, he's called. Great guy. So he's under Frank Warren, but Al Smith's his trainer.
Yeah. So anyone that doesn't know, like Frank Warren's a boxing promoter.
Yeah, so you've got Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, who are like run the two kind of like
in Britain, and then you've got like other people, Don King, he's like American, other famous boxing promoters.
Yeah. So then I went and met Al, went to the iBox gym, and what was interesting there was, again, like where I don't have this strength conditioning background through university and UKSCA and all that stuff, and I'm kind of just writing my own script. Like I had really no one to learn from. I was just doing things how I felt like it should be done, and it turns out it's not how things are done.
Yeah. But
it stood me in good stead, luckily. So when I met Al and he said, like, you know what, I really appreciate you coming up here. Most strength conditioning coaches just think they know it all. and they don't care what I have to say. They've never once like spoke to me about the plan, and they've just done things. And then I get Dennis in tired when he's got sparring that day, and he said, "But you've come in and you've rectified that on day one." And I was just like, to me, it just felt like the right thing to do.
Mate, I was going to say that. What's
Feels
the
like
ultimate
common
goal?
sense.
Boxing.
Like boxing, like he's not training to be good at strength conditioning. He's
No.
training to be good at boxing.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm then battering him, so then his boxing is suboptimal. Then I'm failing him.
No, totally.
It just.
But that would seem normal to me. Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it's not, because Mark said the same thing. Like Al said, like I've heard it multiple times now that there's clearly a trend that it's not the norm. So we spoke about that, and I said to Al, like, so what do you think I need to work on with Dennis? Like, what's his weakness? And he pulled the same face and went, he ain't got one. And I was just like, that's what he said to me. And he went, yeah, no, he hasn't. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, so then this is just like, there's nothing we're trying to fix here. We're just actually just trying to grow and develop, which is class. Oh,
mate. So here's a hot tip for anyone listening. Dennis McCann, world champion. Who says you don't get anything from listening to this pod? Mate, I want to. I've got to sort of put you on the spot a little bit, right? So obviously, you're a strength and conditioning coach for Dorking. They won promotion.
Yep.
Obviously, you've seen Dennis win a few fights now.
Yeah.
When won a title as well? Or?
He's got 2 titles. And he's
Did he win one? So was he training with you when he won one of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Okay, so what gave you more enjoyment? No, they're probably the same amount of enjoyment, but just like, what is that feeling like?
So the promotion final for Dorking, the nature of that. So right now, I'd say the promotion final for Dorking is...
They won in the playoffs.
Yeah. Probably the highlight of my strength conditioning coaching career since being out. Dennis, there's some big things to come for him, like on the horizon. Like, his trajectory is insane, and no doubt, if I manage to get out to Vegas or something like that with him, like, they'll be hard to beat. But right now, the playoff final, quick story, 2-1 behind.
Mate, we got time. It don't have to be quick.
Well, yeah, but it's 2-1 behind against Ebbsfleet.
Oh, scenes! I can see it already, mate.
Honestly, they scored in, like, I think it was the 91st minute. It was 1-1. They scored in the 91st minute to make it 2-1. A fan flared the pitch. So it was 6 minutes added time. They scored 91. Fan flared the pitch, set the pitch on fire because it's artificial grass.
Yeah.
Bit on fire. So play stopped, which gave an additional 5 minutes. So we had now had 11 minutes. And we scored in 90 plus 10 to make it 2-2. Literally, like 5 seconds later, the whistle went.
Yeah. Oh.
And then into extra time. And then we scored to beat them 3-2 in extra time. And, like, just the emotions involved.
No, I can
just like mental.
Yeah.
Mental.
I suppose maybe a bit of the problem with Dennis is because he's pretty much steamrolled. He's good, isn't he? Like, he's steamrolled, so there hasn't been that, like, jeopardy,
Yeah.
Yet.
When
And touch wood, there isn't too much jeopardy for your poor art or Dennis.
No, but further down the line, when because his career is going to the moon, the way he's going, and like I said, like, for me, anyone could do what I do there. I'm just to be the lucky
facilitator.
One. Yeah, I'm just the lucky one that lives near him.
Yeah,
because anyone in my position that, like,
half decent.
Well,
obviously not, mate, because apparently you're doing something completely different.
Yeah. Well, from a logistical point of view, by like communicating with the whole team. Yeah. Maybe. But ultimately, like, he chose to work with me because I live near him. Otherwise he'd still be in Essex. But yeah, so there's nothing I'm doing there that's groundbreaking. It's just him that unfortunate. Same as Dorking, like, the players are the players. I'm just keeping them fit. I'm just like taking the warm ups and managing their load, managing their performance, aiding their recovery. Because a phrase I heard is an athlete's best ability is their availability. So anytime you're out, anytime you're injured or overtrained, you're no good to anyone. So my job is just to keep them available. Like, just give the manager a selection headache. The more players he's got available, the bigger headache he's got. But it's a good problem to have. So that's all kind of my part is there.
We've spoke about Dorking and Dennis, right? So your new business venture, which is your majority time taker.
Yeah.
Talk us through this, because I know this is something we've spoke about. You're very passionate about.
Yeah.
I like it as well.
So this is my online coaching business, and I just know that there's a massive gap in the high performance world. So when I say high performance, we're talking strength conditioning, so your training, your mindset, your lifestyle, your habits, your nutrition. It's literally everything that facilitates getting a result. And often the byproduct of training for high performance is everything in your life improves because you just become a better person. But my role inside of that is to help people achieve a physical accomplishment alongside improving in other areas of their life as a byproduct. So it's not training for body composition. That's, again, a nice byproduct is looking better for the thing you're training for. But most importantly, it's about, I call it a big scary goal. Having a big scary goal, setting it, chasing it, and then achieving it, and then not stopping there, setting the next one, and just this never-ending cycle.
Got to be goal-driven, mate.
This never-ending cycle. Yeah, I've got this. People always talk about the process, and I'm a massive fan of being process-driven. Like I'm not against that at all. However, the outcome has to be something that fires you up. Like imagine you rowing across the Atlantic. Like the outcome's to get to the other side.
Yeah.
Like the process is obviously every single stroke.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Every stroke you're doing, like that's the part of the process, and staying on top of your food, your sleep, and your safety. So you obviously have to be like that has to be a part of it. You're focused on that, but it's getting to the other side that's driving.
Yeah,
that.
to me it was like that process is a byproduct.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
I like wow, what amazing! Like to see all that wildlife, the sunsets, to have that time by myself to reflect. But the goal was to become the first person to row from mainland Europe to mainland North America. Yeah. And it's easy now because I was successful. I got the record, and it's all good. So I can be like that. But at the end of the day, that is why I set out, and it's what I achieved. So, of course I'm buzzing.
Yeah, I think motivation has to come into this conversation because we have our motivators internally and externally. Like the external motivation there, I guess for you was like being the first person to do it, like externally being recognised.
Yeah.
But internally, I bet you had that desire to feel significant.
Yeah, and especially we talk about some military careers. Like you were lucky enough to go on operational tours. I wasn't. And I know be careful what you wish for, especially now. Like with what happens in Afghanistan, like it really does seem pointless.
Yeah.
But the way I explain to people is, I feel like 11 years in the military. I'd gone to train, never played a match.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And then I was unsuccessful. I got stand up at the end of selection.
Yeah.
So I felt. Internally, I definitely felt like that nearly man, and I needed some high stakes environment to prove myself that I wasn't that nearly that I was the guy that lives that life, that not only talks the talk but can walk the walk. So that's a big reason why I did the row. That really is the big reason. And and another byproduct was raising the money for charity, and I did do it in memory of my granddad. I'm so proud of that. I'm so thankful. But to me, that's not I don't see that as my achievement, because I see that as everyone else's achievement, because they were the ones that put their hands in the pockets, mate. Like, I was just the guy that, and I said, I just woke up, I just went to work every day for 111 days. But yeah, it was that internal motivation that I didn't want to be that nearly man. I wanted to prove myself, and I felt like I did.
And it's from an outcome, right?
Like, yeah. Oh yeah, that's the reason I picked that goal. I didn't pick. Not that I'm taking anything away from the Talisker, because the Talisker is an amazing race, and to win it is bloody hard. Ask any of the winners. I just wanted something where I had no equals. If that makes sense.
Is the Talisker too normal?
Almost, yeah. Well, do you know why I didn't do it, mate? It's because one of and I won't name names. One of the squadron boys was like, Talisker, oh yeah, is that not that race that old boy did? And I was like, yeah, Frank Boswell, bit of a beast. He was 72, I suppose. And my background, my commando, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm in my prime, fighting age male, like, I don't want to be, I just did the race that old geezer did. But then you could also say, I bottled it a little bit, because, if you don't win it, and you are this commando, you sell yourself this, commando guy, and you don't win it, you know, like, you know, what have you done?
Yeah.
You know, so in a sense, I did bottle it, but then also I just felt I just wanted that something that no one had ever done before, and then, you know, no one can say, oh, is that? Well, no, because no one else has done it yet.
Yeah.
You know, so
like, it's to get a little bit deep. It's ego and insecurity driven, right? Like,
yeah.
We're feeding our ego and we're feeding our insecurities.
Yeah.
Like, we're making ourselves feel better about our previous failures.
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, and hit the nail on the head, mate. I don't even know what to say, like, because you've just said it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, but I learn. You know, so you learn more. You learn on your failures, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, and like it's only a failure if you don't learn something from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it took me a long time, but ultimately, the way I always say it in my head is, you know, I didn't rap.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't quit when the going got tough. I was still there. People always talk about their strengths, and I honestly think I've got a bulletproof mindset. Like you said, I always back myself, and like I think I could, you know, beat Dennis in a fight. I know I couldn't. He'd throw me around the ring like a wet paper bag, for God's sake. But you know, I would back myself. You know, and like you've got, you know, honestly, and like I said to you when people are like, oh, you on ocean run? I said, doesn't matter. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm never gonna quit. Like I'd rather, and it's pretty dark. And my mum hates it when I say this, but I always said, I would have rather died out there than failed.
Yeah.
Because having tasted that pill before,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it sucks, mate. Like anything, like failure is horrible. Like I remember, I bet my mum a few years ago on Christmas Day that I could do a 5,000 piece puzzle in like an hour. I failed miserably, and I was still like, I was there, like, she got me to the bitter end. She was like, "Time's up now, Jack." I was like, "There's your tenner." I'm gonna have another turkey sandwich. But yeah, no, like you got to be. I'm a big believer in goal driven. Hang on, whose podcast is this? Am I interviewing you? Or are you interviewing me? Yeah, so go on, tell about the business. So
my goal is to create a community of people that are basically the squadron mentality. So like, I left the military, I've left the squadron. I'm involved in the football team where I get that great culture, I get that great environment. But I also feel like more people need and should be involved in a high performance environment. And it's not something you can easily find or get hold of.
no,
And so I was like, I'm just going to create it. Like, I'm just going to create one. I'm going to find loads of people, similar mindset, similar kind of values and ethos, different goals, and then I'm just going to get them all together, and then everyone will just elevate their standards. And yeah, like, so this is what I was saying before. It's like the 8th iteration of the business, where I've kind of like tried stuff, failed or succeeded, and then adapted, and then moved on. And it's like, right, well, yeah, that was good, but it still didn't scratch the itch of what I want. And it's knowing that every time I kind of reach an area, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm capable of more than this. It's like, well, what does more than this look like? And I'm like, well, let's just try. So then it's like just constantly iterating and trying and just like raising the bar of what I think is possible from a business standpoint, and then just figuring out how to create it and make it reality. And then just getting to that point where it just like it can then just have that growth where everyone wants to be a part of it. Like it's a club that people want to be in, but to be in it is still quite. It's like the squadron. It's exclusive. Like people might talk bad about it when they see you cutting around with your green lid and all the rest of it.
but they want to be a part.
But they want to be a part of it. Like,
so I don't know if it probably not when you were there. So we always in the engineers, you have to go back to a place called Chatham to do trade course, and all the commandos and paros used to sit together.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at that, and people used to go, "Why are they doing that?"
Yeah.
Oh, look at them, they're knobheads. And I'd keep quiet, and I'd go, "I want to sit there one."
Yeah. I've always thought it was class.
Yeah, I did.
Like it's all the little things, isn't it? Like cutting your sleeves off. And
I want to sit there. I want to be part of that crew because I wanted to push myself. I wanted to be better.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't happy with being average.
And again, like it was like the outcome of achieving the green lid is just the start of it, really. Like you do it, you work, you join the club, and then all of a sudden you're at the bottom, and then you got.
You are at the bottom.
Yeah. Like it's just never ending, isn't it?
Yeah,
and then until you get to that point where it's like, well, what does growth look like now? Like, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And then for me, that was on the outside.
Yeah, no, mate, I totally agree. Right, so that doesn't conclude the pod. I've got one final question for you, Louis Plum. If you could give yourself, a young Plum, some advice, what would it be, and why?
Yeah, good question. So if I was to speak to my younger self, so what we're talking, like 20 years old?
Yeah, 20 years old.
I'd say, like, lean into your insecurities, like, understand why you're insecure about those things. When you look at someone you're jealous of, what are you comparing yourself against? Why are you jealous of that attribute? And what insecurity is that highlighting on yourself? And then, rather than be jealous, actually be inspired by it, because they're doing something you want to do and you're just in denial about it. So I'd say, so lean into your insecurities, lean into your jealousy, lean into whatever it is you're comparing yourself against, find inspiration from it, and then use that to internally make you better. Because I just don't see any need to slag others off, put other people down, because it always is a reflection back on yourself.
No, 100%.
And I think the earlier you can learn that, the more joy and fulfillment you'll have in your life, because you won't just constantly be looking for flaws in everyone else because you're scared of the flaws in yourself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's been nasty.
Yeah.
Right, to someone and even so say it's behind their back, this is the big one. They don't know you're doing that.
No.
So it's not affecting them. So it is literally just affecting you. It's the most ridiculous thing. And Louis, I think that is a good place to finish the pod, especially with all, the online hate, trolls and that. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. No. Really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, guys. You actually came to me, so I really do appreciate it. Okay, so that's the end of the episode today, guys. If you enjoyed it, please could you follow, give it a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, as it really helps grow the podcast. Thank you for listening, and that is all.